Hey everyone, I hit the go live, so let's see if it actually happens. Right now, I've got my channel up, but I don't see it live. So if the rest of you do, let me know. I see it just came on, so I guess I've got to learn to trust that the session's working. Hope everybody's having a good day, and appreciate you taking time out of your busy evening to come and visit for a few minutes and talk about things. I released a couple videos this week. I had expected to release another one this morning, but just didn't quite get it done. And so, one of the things we can talk about is if you had any questions about any of the videos. But let's go look at some of the questions that we already have, and we'll go with questions first. And then if we run out of questions, I'll go ahead and go over some tips and tricks and see what you see what you had any questions on the video. Let's see here. Says so. Here's one from Brooks. He says he's doing good, and he wanted to know what's the favorite way to turn rough sawn slabs into dimensional lumber, plane, CNC, etc. Okay, so my favorite way for taking rough sawn slabs and turning them into dimensional lumber that I can use in projects is I have a big combo joiner planer. It's a 16-inch wide joiner planer, a Hammer A341. If you're familiar with that brand, Jay Bates used to have it. He traded it in last year. And so I first like to take that and get all of it planed and surfaced out. And that usually is all I need to do, of course, between the planer and joiner, and then, of course, the table saw. So that's my favorite way to do it. Now, as far as if I have a smaller piece that's kind of wobbly and I'm trying to use it for something like a wood inlay or epoxy inlay or something like that, then I will take it over to my CNC and I will use a big surfacing bit that I have, a 2.5-inch surfacing bit, and I'll use that method. But my primary for bigger pieces, remember my CNC is only a 2-foot by 3-foot CNC. So if I have bigger pieces, my way is going to the joiner and planer. I see we got Brooks out there and Kurt and Mark Lindsay showed up. Thanks, Mark, for saying hi. Stephen Maine. Stephen, where are you from? I don't think I've met you yet. See if I can get down there and look. Well, hello, Stephen. If you have any questions, put it in there. And let's see here. Jim, you made it. Thanks, Jim. Glad you can make it. Hope your cold is getting better. And Steve from Harneal Media is in there. Hi, Steve. I appreciate you showing up. Let's see what else we got here. Tim Keller. Tim, nice to see you as I make my way through the comments here. Stephen. Oh, my goodness. Stephen, you're from Australia. That's impressive. Thanks for taking time to visit. Dave Krause, appreciate that. So are there any questions about the two videos that I put out this week? The first video I put out was one that was dealing with making the perfect shape for an American flag star. The challenge that I've run across when talking with people is they make a star, but it's not the right shape. And so I wanted to go through that process, and seeing the people that are in this audience, I imagine that most of you already knew how to do that. Madra 3212, happy Thursday, and thanks for visiting. Madra, where are you from? I'd like to know. And so I thought that would be a good video. So if you have any questions about that, then that would be fine. And Brooks, I noticed that you said I don't know why it didn't let me hide this comment here. Just a second. I'm learning how to do this. Okay. Joiner someday. Okay. If you don't have a joiner, then the next best thing would be my CNC, and I know you have one of those. Hey, Roger Brown. Nice to see you. Where are you coming from? Okay. So that was the first video, and it doesn't sound like we had much questions. Oh, hi, El. Oh, yeah, Ellen. Yeah, now I know who you are, Ellen, from Mark's group. Great. Hey, so that was the first video. It doesn't sound like we have any questions, and I guess most of the people in this group know how to do that already, make the perfect star. If there are any questions, then we can entertain them later. The next video I had was one on the laser, and it was one that I found that I've had to deal with a couple times, and that is I'm in the middle of cutting a project. In this case, what I was doing was I was cutting a project. It's an Easter resurrection scene for a friend. In fact, I'll be putting 2 videos out on that. And I got to a certain point and remembered that I had forgotten to do a part that I wanted to do. And so I didn't want to have to start all over and double cut the stuff that I'd cut before. So I had to stop the laser. And then I realized that there are people that use their laser that may not know how to stop and then restart it where it took off. So so I thought that was a good topic to cover. And so far, I haven't gotten any comments on either one of those. So I don't know if those videos are going to be a flop or they're going to be helpful to somebody. But if anybody has any questions on those, I'm open to that. I don't see any other questions here in the audience. So Kurt mentioned here that to Brooks that there's some good videos out there on squaring up the lumber using a table saw. And yes, I've done that before too, but I don't do it because I don't need to be honest with you. And so Mark said, I don't have a laser, so it was over my head. Thanks, Mark. Well, you know, that's the challenge with me. I'm trying to hit a couple different markets. So I'm open to questions on lasers, 3D printers, CNC, whatever you want to cover. So at this point, why don't I start to go through something that I originally planned for these tips and tricks? And I want to start going through some of the actual tips and tricks or shortcuts that are out there in Vectric. We'll start with Vectric, and on another show, I'll do the Lightburn. But for today, let's go ahead and start with Vectric. And these are tips and tricks many of you may already be experienced with, but forget they're out there. And it helps me when I get reminded of some of these things. So we'll go through some of them very quickly, and then some other ones that I've seen used before, and I don't use that often because I forget they're there. So if you see my eyes wandering, it's because I'm looking at one screen over here on my right, be your left. That's the VCarve screen, and on the other screen is some of the shortcuts I wanted to go through. Hi, Michael Bernasconi. Nice to see you. So let's start with me opening up, sharing a screen over here. Open up a Vectric screen. Okay, so now what you should see is my Vectric screen. And if I were to open it completely up, this is the video I was working on for the last couple days. And what it is, it's a scene. It's what you call an open tomb or Easter resurrection scene. And these are the different sheets I'm working on. And this is a video that will come out probably tomorrow. I just have a couple quick tunings on it that I need to do. And when I put this video out, we will walk through how to make this. Let me open it up. We're going to go through how to make this screen right here. How to make this Easter resurrection scene with a couple people. And so at the end of the video, you should be able to make this. And I'm actually going to offer the file for a free download if you wait long enough through the show and can and have the opportunity to give me a word to go download it. At least that's something I'm trying, is somebody gets through it and gives a word, and then they get a download off my website. So this is the video I'm working on. It should be out in the next couple of days. And the video right after that will be a video that takes that file, which is right now in VCarve, for those that do have lasers. And it's going to then take that file and it's going to open that one up, change it into a Lightburn file. And then the Lightburn file, I will be able to, in the Lightburn file, I'll take it to the Lightburn file, and this is the file that you'll see for Lightburn when it's all said and done. So you can see this one, I added a few rock boulder marks and stuff in there. And so it's slightly different, but I'm going to take the Vectric file that I created for the CNC version, and I'm going to turn that into a laser version. And that'll be the next video after the one I release tomorrow. So it'll show you how you can convert both, convert your Vectric VCarve files into actual laser files. And so those of you that have lasers, hopefully I think that will be helpful. And that's what my goal is, to try to help people be able to use all of their various tools. So let's get into some of these shortcuts now, or tips and tricks, as they say. So I think probably the easiest one to start out with, I think everybody knows, is if you're in the Vectric file and you hit Control A, so that was Control A, it will select all of the vectors on that active sheet. So I don't think that's new to very many people. The next one I wanted to talk about is the toggling between the selection node editing mode. I think everybody understands that if I have a vector selected, if I hit N, I will toggle between the node selection mode and the other mode, or you can come over here, obviously, and hit the node mode right here. So hopefully I'm not boring people yet, but we'll get through some other ones here. The next one that I thought was pretty interesting that I wasn't aware of, and maybe many of you were, was that the ability to open up some of the actual forms that I use on a regular basis. So I normally will come over here to the forms and I will hit one of these various form buttons, and then I'll start working in that form. So let's talk about a couple of them. If I hit T, you can see it opens up the transform form, or the set size form, I should say. And if I am over here and I right click my mouse, I guess that didn't work. Normally, if you right click your mouse, the form will go away. If you use the M key, hit M, you'll get the move selection. If you hit the R key, you'll get the rotate. Now, I want to point something out about the rotate that some people don't recognize, and I have heard Mark talk about this before also, but normally when you open up the rotate key, let's say we want to rotate this object right here. let's do it this one. It'll be a little easier. Normally, when I open it up, there I was trying to grab it. Normally, when I open them up, the rotate is normally in the center. Of course, now it's giving me a hard time. Let me put another vector here. So normally when I hit the rotate key, you can see that this rotation point is in the center. And it can get kind of hard, but if you're making a clock or you're doing something else, it's important to note that you can take the rotation and you can move it to any spot you want for the item to rotate from. And this is something I didn't know for a long time and I thought might be helpful. So let's say that we want to rotate from this corner over here. So if I use the rotation, you now see that it rotates from that corner, which can be pretty handy. Or if you want to, you can take the rotation key and come over to this corner, and now you're rotating your object from that corner. And you can switch it to whatever corner you want. You can switch it to the middle if you want to rotate in the middle. Or you can switch it back to the center. The point is that you want to be able to rotate your items from different positions. It's real easy to do once you're in the rotate tool. All right, so let's go down to another one. And that would be the one that I like to see all the time is when I'm in the middle of working on trying to create vectors and I want to mirror things or get them to flip. So let's go through a couple of them up here. So if you select this vector here, and I want that vector just to flip vertically, there's two ways to do it. One is, of course, I can go into the rotate selected and I can use these tools here, or I can use and hit V, and this will flip vertically, as you see, right in place. Hit V, it flips vertically back the other way. If I hit H, it flips horizontal, and if I hit H again, it will flip back horizontal. Now, if I want to, let me get rid of this for a second. If I want to take and mirror this across the center of the material, what I can do is hit the Shift H, and you see it mirrored on the other side, center of the material. Now, none of these are actually making a copy at this time. So Tim, yes, the question is when I was, let me go back here and answer Tim's question before I keep going. So Tim asked the question, how are you changing the rotate spot? So the way I was changing the rotate spot, hit the rotate tool, was I was simply taking the mouse cursor over it. I hold the left mouse key down, and then I can drag it to wherever I want to drag it. And wherever I drag it to, that's where this item is going to rotate. So you see, I didn't even put it on the line there. It's rotating right there. And this works really, really well for doing clocks or other odd items. And you want to join a piece to it and have it rotate in that one area. So that's how I was doing that. Just dragging it. So now let's get back to this mirroring. So that one there, remember, was Control H, which mirrored it across the center of the material, or Shift H, I should say. If I hit Control, Control H, now you can see it gave me a mirrored copy. So this was the original copy right here, and this is the mirrored copy. And so that is how you would get a mirrored copy. Let me hit commands. Let me hit Control Z here, get rid of that. And then if I don't want a mirrored copy, I just want to shift it around the process. I just hit the H key. Now, if I want to mirror it horizontally around the center, then what I do is I hit the Shift H. And you can see that that mirrors it across the center. Now I want to create a mirrored copy across the center. The next thing that I want to do is hit Control Shift H or Shift Control H. Now you see I not only mirrored it across the center, but I actually have a mirrored copy of it also. Okay, I see Mark was answering some questions in the comments. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. So now, those were the various options with the mirroring. Let me delete that for now. So the other one is the vertical flip. So just like you do with H, if I hit V, it will vertically flip it. If I hit Shift V, you'll notice it's way down here. And that's because it vertically flipped it around the center of the material. Vertically flipped around the center of the material. So if I hit Shift V again, it's going to be right back where it was before. If I want to create a mirrored copy vertically around the center of the material, then I hit the Control Shift V. Must have hit something wrong there. Hold on. Well, my Snagit is interfering with it. It's calling up my Snagit. Let me try one more time here, and then I may have to move on because it may be my Mac that's creating problems for me. Well, normally that would mirror vertically around the center of the material, and for some reason it's not working for me. I'll have to investigate that later and see if there's a different key that I need to use on my Mac. Well, I was hitting, let's just do, Mark saying Control V, not Control Shift V. Yes, Control V was, that's Control V, Mark. When I hit this one, I hit Control V. When I hit Control V, it created a copy. So let's try that again. Yeah, for me, if I hit Control V, Mark, what that does is it creates a copy. So I'm using the cheat sheet here that Vectric provides to us, and as it's not working on my Mac. That may be something where there's an optional key that I should be using on my Mac trying to run this program. So we'll move on to the next one. So F9, I think we're all aware of. If you take F9 it's going to move everything to the center. So that moves it to the center. And let's see if there are any other interesting ones that I found were interesting to. We've got all the node editing tools. So I also thought it was interesting that, let's say that I'm going to hit close this. And let's say I want to make a circle. And so I'm in the circle tool. And I want to make that radius, let's say 1.5 inches, the radius. If I take and I hold the left mouse key down as I move out, if I put 1.5 in there and then let go of the mouse key, it will automatically go to that level. So if I go in here and I put 2R, it will give me a radius of a diameter of 4 inches, but a radius of 2. 2D. That gives me a diameter of 2. And if I well, my circuit breaker just popped. Are you guys still on or not? I think I just lost the internet. Okay, so you guys can still hear me? All right, my dual monitors all went out. So I wasn't sure whether my internet went down too. I heard a big pop in here. So the circuit breaker for the rest of my office just went out. So as long as you can hear me, then let's open this up to any other questions. I kind of feel like I'm boring the heck out of you guys by just going through all of these various shortcut tools. Okay, so let me see how I can get back on track here, folks. Like I said, my monitors went out, and I was looking at one of those monitors with all the shortcuts as I was going through them. And so I'm kind of struggling here, to be totally honest with you, and about having those in front of me as I go through the process without flipping them up on the front of the screen of everybody. Let's see if I can figure out how to do that. Open up my Vectric screen. So it looks like my Vectric screen came back up. Sorry for this. These technical difficulties, not quite sure what happened. Okay, I see that you all say you can see my Vectric screen, but and I can see my screen, but then I can't see what I'm sharing or anything else. That's the problem. I'm not used to working with only one monitor and then trying to create a live session. And so honestly, I feel like, as embarrassing as it is, or as frustrating as it is, uh, I think that the usefulness of this live session is about over, unless somebody has a specific question. Because at this point, I don't have like a pre-made video to share or anything else. I was hoping to go through all of these tips. I can't see where the tips are, so there's no direction for me to just kind of follow through. This is a weakness of me, depending on my technology. So let's see if there's any questions in the comments here that we can look at. I'm looking for the question, Mark. I see you said I have a question. I'm trying to see where it is. What was the opening? It says, Rob, what do you find to be your favorite? Okay, here it is. Rob, what do you find to be your favorite shortcut? Which do you use most often? Well, that's a fair question. My favorite shortcut that I use most often is the shortcut associated with uh, going backwards after a mistake, which is, for Windows users, is Control Z. So for example, if I accidentally, let me get out of this form tool. If I accidentally make a mistake, all I have to do is hit the Control Z and it will go, and you can see I'm doing that right now. It takes everything off the screen. And I think that's a common one. Another interesting shortcut that I ran across as I was looking at shortcuts to talk about on this video was, let's say I'm in the middle of a rectangle. So I open up the rectangle tool and I draw a rectangle. And then I get out of that by hitting the escape key. And now I'm no longer in that tool. And then I'm over here and say, Huck, I need to make another rectangle. If I hit the space bar, it will reopen whatever the last tool was that I was using. So if I was working on a circle and I created a circle, and then I get out of it, and then I'm down here and I want to work on a circle again, all I have to do is hit the space bar and I'm back in the circle tool. So I like the redo tool, I'll call it, the one where you can hit Command Z and it takes it away. And then if you, or Control Z, or if you hit Shift Control Z, it will bring it back. So if I want to undo that, I hit Control Z, or if I want to bring it back, I can go, normally I can undo that. So anyway, that's my favorite tool. Now I can't see the comments. Let me get the Vectric screen back down so I can see any comments people have. Thank you for feeding that question, Mark. I appreciate your help. Have I ever made a plinth? No. Pinball in the future. Gotcha. Jim Matthews has a couple questions up above. Okay, Jim. Have you ever made a plinth? I think that is a fancy name for a record player. I have not ever made a plinth at all. And Ellen says, pinball in the future. As Mark said in Windows, Control Z is undo and Control Y, not Shift Control Z. Michael Bernasconi says, my favorite tool, if I'm tracing and have to start a new line, I have a button on my mouse programmed for space. That's a great tool. I haven't got that same tool, Mike. Any other questions? Mark says that Jim has another one above what I saw. So, Jim, can you re-ask that question? Because I can't seem to find it. Oh, okay. I see it now. I was just asking about the best V-bit to use for a flag star. Okay, so there are different schools of thought, Jim, on that. I find the best V-bit for me for the sharpest point is either a 15-degree V-bit. I have used 30-degree V-bits, and then recently, as I put out a video on it, I'm actually using what Brothers in Wood Design, Royalwood uses for his inlays, and I'm actually using a turbine. I always call it turbine because I was in the nuclear business. A tapered ball nose, 46473, and a Amana 46473 tapered ball nose that I've entered into my database as a V-bit. So these days, when I do stars or wood inlays, that is my go-to bit, is that tapered ball nose, and that's what I've been using. But like I said, it's actually entered into my tool database as a V-bit, and I have a video earlier on how I did that. So Michael is talking, Bernasconi and Mark are talking about having a Stream Deck or a special button on his mouse. Now, I have a programmable mouse, Michael, but I don't know how to program it to do what you just did, but you've got me interested now in looking at that. And Kurt, you've got a Stream Deck, and a couple other people have Stream Decks, and I want to get one of those and try to use that, but I haven't done that yet. It was something I was always going to look into. Does anybody have any differences of opinions on what the best V-bit is for creating a star for an American flag? I shared with you mine. Is there anybody that had a different opinion? I think the biggest thing is making sure, let me call up the screen here in front of me again. If we go to an American flag, and I'm just a star, and I'm just going to put it on here. If I want to make a star and I'm using the star tool, and I'm just going to go ahead and make it whatever size I want for a second here. I want to be able to, let me move this out of the way. I think the biggest thing is making sure that this area where it comes across is actually flat. I know that when I first started making flags, I didn't realize that was part of the regulatory part of it. And so I would have stars that look something like this. And if you didn't notice, the inner radius percentage is what I was changing to give me the shape of this star. So the bigger you make that radius, if I'm clicking up here, so let's go up to 80, let's say. If I hit 80 on the inner radius, you can see it almost turns into something like a pentagon. If I go to 60, then we're getting closer to what we want. And then I find 38 is the best for the flags that I make. And I know Laney uses a number of 40, and I've gone with that number also. So, and right now when I'm looking at it as big as it is, that actually looks better than my 38 that I talked about. But normally I would go 38 for my flags. And then knowing the outer diameter is important also when you're making these flags. And that's what I point out in the video is I go to the US flag calculator on Google, and I'm not quite sure how to switch that screen here now with this one screen. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, I'm back. I couldn't figure out how to get over there. Let's try it one more time. Okay, so this is the American flag calculator that I use, and I shared in that video. And you can see in this calculator, you could put in the width or hoist, as they say, and that would be the A part of this flag, or you can put in the length or fly of the flag, and whichever one, which is the length here, whichever B, and whichever you put in, the flag calculator will put in all of the right dimensions. And once you have those dimensions, and as I said in my video, I normally make them 13 wide, but if you wanted to make a big one, you can make a big one and it will tell you what the stars are. And the size of the star, if you look up here, you can see it says K. That tells you the diameter is 13/16 inches. And so when you make your star on StreamYard, then when you make your star in VCarve, you need to make it the diameter 13/16 of an inch. And if we go back over there and see if I can put that on the screen. All right, can you see VCarve on what you're looking at? Like I said, since I don't have my multiple screens, I can't actually feel like I'm flying blind here. Okay, can you see it now? It says the browser can't access your screen. So you saying you see me in full screen. So I can't get over to that other screen now. I just don't know how to control StreamYard the way I thought I did to get there. So anyway, any other questions? And I think you can all put questions in there if I can see it. Let me see if I can see any here. Thanks, Mark, for the coaching about you see me in full screen, because I couldn't tell what you were able to see. So, Ellen, we got a minute or two. What kind of question do you have about 3D printers? So if all of you, some of you are, most of you are probably aware because of my participation in Mark's group and interfacing with you guys a lot of times but I did purchase, in November, I purchased a 3D printer. I had a 3D printer before. I had a Creality Ender 3 Pro back 3 years ago, and I used it for a little while, but I got bored with it because honestly, it took so long to print everything, and then keeping the bed level and was a challenge. So I just got tired of messing with it and futzing with it. So I just gave up on 3D printing. And then last year, I heard a lot about the Amazon Bamboo printer and Bamboo Labs printer. And so I'd heard a lot about that, and so I decided to go ahead and try that. And I went ahead and I bought that Bamboo Labs printer in November on a Friday sale, Black Friday sale. And then I finally started using it in January. And I will tell you that it was definitely a game changer for me for 3D printing because, one, it was faster, but more importantly, all the bed leveling issues and all the other issues that I had to struggle with my Creality and had to consider, I didn't have to, because it was kind of like, I would say, in automatic mode. And so I'm not a tinkerer with the technical equipment. I don't want to play with the equipment. I want to create things. And that's what I liked about the Bamboo Labs. Now, the Creality is coming out with some newer printers, K1 and stuff, that are supposed to be equivalent to the Bamboo Labs. All of them have become what I'll call more technologically savvy, so that things are being done automatically. So, depending on what you want to do with a 3D printer, now it's a lot more expensive. My Creality Ender Pro 3 cost me $150 at the time, 4 years ago. This one cost me $1,400. So it is a pricey investment, but it does make life easier. And if you haven't seen them, I did 30 videos of a video a day where I was making different 3D products just to show how quick you could do it. The actual printing took me less time than making the videos. So again, I just don't. So Ellen, I looked at, you said you have a Creality, and I gave you my feedback on the Creality Ender 3. It was a good machine, and it was reasonably cost, but you had to futz with it a lot. And Ellen, I agree. The Bamboo Labs made life so much easier. And Ellen, you asked, how many rolls of filament are you able to use, 8 or 16? On my printer, I got the automatic changer with 4. So you can get up to 8 or 16 depending on what additional automatic changers you get. So the one I got was 4, and for now it seems to be plenty because it's not very difficult. The Bamboo makes it easy to put your printers in and out. So it's fairly simple and straightforward. So I like the Bamboo X1 Carbon, which I see Tim Keller says that's the one I have. Yeah, Ellen, what you'll see if you watch those videos, those are both on my Shorts feed and on my Instagram, is I don't really talk about much about how I go about printing them, as much as what I printed and why I printed it and why I thought it was useful. Now, I will say that one of the things that getting the printer back up and running has enticed me to do, and that is to learn Fusion 360 again. There was one time when I was doing fairly adequate at Fusion 360, but it was basically for my 3D printing 4 years ago. And when I stopped 3D printing, Aspire and VCarve gave me all the stuff I needed for 3D printing. Now, one might argue that you could use Aspire and create a 3D image or a 3D item and export it in STL, and you would print that on the 3D printer, but it's not the same for the kind of things that I wanted to print. It's not a carving of some sort. Here's an example. Let's see if you see it kind of got dark in here because all the lights and everything turned out on me around here. So hopefully you guys can see me. But let me hold this up to the camera. So some of you may recognize this as a Hobbit door that a lot of people using VCarve or Aspire have printed. So I just took a design and make model out of VCarve. Actually, I did it in Aspire, and I exported this as an STL, and I printed this on my 3D printer. So anything that you can export as an STL out of your Aspire program, as long as you triangulate it with a solid back, you can print that in your 3D printer. I'll coach you anytime you want on Instagram, Jim. Tim, what is your favorite thing about the Bamboo for you? So, Ellen, I think I mentioned that a lot of my prints I actually got right off Thingiverse or Printables, or Bamboo Labs has a maker section where you can go and get prints. So most of the stuff that I got was already developed for me. But there were several special things you'll see in my series of prints that I used Fusion 360 for. And they were specialized things that I couldn't go find a print on. Things like for my Surf Prep sanding holder, and I wanted to have magnets embedded in it so that I could hang it on my dust collector instead of on the wall real close to me. So there were several things that when I went to look for a one-time print, it wasn't available. So I used Fusion 360. And Kurt, I see in the comments, talks about Tinkercad is free and not too bad to use. I've heard that, but since I already had Fusion 360, I was using that. And by the way, Fusion 360 is free. So Mark, you talked about, you looked into Fusion 360, and a lot of people are get confused about that because they think they have to have an annual subscription cost, and you don't. Fusion 360, if you want, I can send you a link. There's no, I'm not affiliated or anything with them, but if you want, I can put a link down in the description. But Fusion 360 is free, absolutely free to hobbyists and people that want to make their own stuff with Fusion 360. Here's the limitations. So almost all of its functions are available. There are a couple that aren't available in the free version, but none of us would probably run into them. But most of their stuff that you would use, almost all the stuff that you would use, would actually be free. Here's the limitation. You can have as many designs as you want in their free program. Fusion 360 is a cloud-based program, so they keep all of the designs in the cloud, but you can only have what you call 10 active designs at a time, which means 10 things you're actively working on. So that's real easy to handle, because if you don't want to be working on something, you just make it inactive, and then you work on up to 10 other things. And then if you want to work on that thing that you made inactive, you make something else inactive for a little while and you reactivate that one, it's all a matter of like 2 clicks, and now you've got it back to work on. So Fusion 360 is free for hobbyists. If you want to try it out and use it, it won't cost you a dime. And you just have the limitation of having 10 active open files at a time. And I have not found that as an issue for me. And Corbin Dunn, if you were watching the show last week, Corbin talked about how he uses Fusion 360 all the time. He says he doesn't need anything more than the free version himself. All right. Tim talked about he uses Design Spark. And Iton, Fusion 360 is important for things like simultaneous for. Well, yeah, if you're going to get into that kind of stuff, you're right. And Blender's free, but if you were listening to Corbin, he uses Blender, but he also says it's very, very difficult to learn for most people. And Mark, go have a good dinner, and thank you for showing up. Appreciate it. If you ever need any insights or thoughts about the Bamboo software, Tim, just let me know. Yeah, Daryl, they push you to get the subscription, no doubt about that. But the reality is you don't need to have the subscription. Just kind of ignore their pushing. It's one of the things I've noticed about most software companies these days. The minute you try their free version, next thing you know, they're making you feel like you're going to miss out if you don't upgrade or do something with the subscription. But I do know that I know several people that use Fusion 360 on the free model and have not run into limitations other than that 10 active at a given time. Eton, I don't know about that. I'm not into 4-axis toolpath, so I've never even tried it. You might ask Corbin Dunn because he uses it, and he would know more about that than I would. Yeah, the nice thing, Tim, is that the Bamboo Labs wants to warn you if you're starting to do something that it doesn't think is right. Aton, you said you can teach Blender if anyone is interested. So Aton is saying he can teach Blender if anyone is interested in learning it. Right now, my plate's full, Aton, but if I decide to go in that direction, I will. And Kurt is suggesting that maybe a YouTube set of videos might be helpful. Dwayne, welcome to the show. I didn't see you were in. Thanks for thanking me. And Ellen, you said you plan on making your own files. What I plan on making there is no file to buy. That's why I went to Fusion 360, but there are several options such as Tinkercad, Blender, and others that are free. Just like I said, I went to Fusion 360 because it kind of fit what I was doing when I was doing the 3D printing, and it wasn't that hard for me to pick back up. There are lots of videos on YouTube. A guy named Product Design PDO, excuse me. He has a good YouTube channel that covers Fusion 360 pretty well. I would agree with you there, Kurt. Not all videos are equal with educational purpose. That's one of the challenges I have trying to find my niche here with my channel is I really want to help people learn. And honestly, I'm probably not the most engaging. And so if you start getting into the details of things, there's a good number of people that just tune out. But I'm trying not to listen to that crowd of going into the entertainment business, and I'm trying to keep my channel in a way that when somebody watched the video, by the end of that video, they could go design that same thing or learn how to do it themselves. That's my goal. Well, it looks like we've hit the hour. I said I would respect everybody's time. And if there's no final questions, then I will go ahead and sign off. I would like comments and feedback if you have them for me on whether you're finding this type of format helpful or not. I will try to have a project next week to open up with in the event for some reason we don't have extra questions or whatever. I think that's a lesson learned, is that having a project that I can walk through might be much more productive and helpful. All right, so that'll be it. Until we see each other again, thank you for all your support, everybody. And I hope that hope you have a great week and that things are going okay for you. With that, we'll say goodbye. Have a good day.